Versatile Mage. Chapter 223. Not a single one remains. The trembling carried through the air. When the lightning yaksha forked into 5 branches and landed, it did not just hit its 5 objectives. In the areas where the thunderbolt yaksha landed arose a powerful pressure. Whether it was those who were directly hit by the thunderbolt yaksha, or those who were standing near the area of Chanjan's domain, the little dark beasts had no way to survive. The difference between the former and latter was that the former was turned into countless droplets of blood steam, while the latter was merely directly turned into minced meat. Who knows which one suffered more pain before they died? His Chanjan thunderbolt yaksha's might was much greater than that of a common grade lightning seed. The remaining dark beasts seemed to have all died from the explosion of the intermediate lightning magic. One of them seemed to have good luck. Only its legs had been completely shattered. Unfortunately for it, it just happened to get stomped on by the spirit wolf. The spirit wolf slowly bit this dark beast to death. Perhaps this dark beast that was being chewed on was regretting why it didn't just get killed along with its group. Instead, it was tormented for half a minute for no particular reason except a spirit wolf's curiosity. In just a moment, all of the dark beasts had been completely cleaned out. Just a while ago, Mofan was the prey of these creatures. However, he had immediately turned into a murderous lightning death god. One had to know that it wouldn't be much of a problem for these dark beasts to deal with 2 or 3 intermediate magicians. They were crafty, fast, and they knew how to attack as a team. Although intermediate magicians were indeed impressive, they still couldn't handle a group of these kinds of creatures attacking them from all directions. After these dark beasts had been turned into blood and meat chunks, the 4 disciples of the Black Vatican realized that the objective they were supposed to catch was not a simple sheep, he was a savage tiger. Their strengths were on a completely different level. This was completely different from the information given to them by the student concealed within the school. Retreat. Hui-san's face had already turned pale. He turned around and started to run. Split up. Hui could still be considered relatively calm as he advised his 3 companions. The 4 of them knew they couldn't handle Mofan, and so they began to run in 4 different directions. Mofan swept across them with his gaze. Beneath his feet was an intertwining star path that wasn't very clear nor bright. "You go pursue that one." Mofan pointed at the gray person who was running toward the riverbank as he spoke to the spirit wolf. The spirit wolf immediately began to chase in the direction Mofan was pointing. The spirit wolf didn't even need to use its burst speed. It thought, there's no way I can't outrun a slow human with 2 legs using my 4 legs. How about biting off a leg once I've caught up and then see how much further he can run? Mofan wasn't in a hurry to pursue them. That was because the shadow beneath his foot had turned into a mysterious star atlas, and a strange dark aura began to grow from it. Go! As Mofan pushed out with his hand, a gigantic shadow needle noiselessly began to fly out from the center of his chest. He couldn't see this shadow energy flying in the air. However, in the reflections in the windows of the factory, he could make out from the safety lamps that something sharp was flying over. In the next second, Hui-si, who was in the middle of running, came to an abrupt stop. His running movement and his inability to move an inch of his body formed an extremely strange posture. It looked extremely odd. Hui-si's complexion turned pale as he looked back. He suddenly realized that the shadow beneath his body had a gigantic spike sticking through it like a sword. Following this, a shadowy gas began to emerge from the surroundings of his body, and this dark mist began to circle around him. It caused his restrictions to become even tighter, as if even his consciousness had received an attack. Everyone must die. Mofan didn't even look at the person whose shadow was being controlled before his body sank into the shadows. A shadow began to quickly move through the pitch-black factory. A few seconds later, the shadows emerged in front of the calmest disciple of the Black Vatican. Hui ran with his life at stake. Originally, he wanted to turn around to see whether that ferocious death god was chasing him, and instead, he nearly crashed into the scary death god. Fire burst, burning bones. A ball of flames suddenly condensed in his palm. Mo Fan threw it right into the front of Hui Er's chest from a close distance. The flames touched Hui Er and quickly covered his body. Hui Er's clothes were completely burned away. While burning his flesh, increasingly dreadful flames began to invade the inside of his body. Even his bones, which shouldn't be burned, were turned into ashes. The flames of burning bones burned both the inside and the outside. If he was specifically controlling the temperature, he could increase the heat of the flames by a lot. If he was lenient toward those from the Black Vatican, then he'd be disrespecting those who had died by their hands. Mo Fan turned around, ignoring the screams coming from the burning Hui Er behind him. His eyes fixed on Hui Wu, who took this opportunity to run away. Hui Wu ran pretty fast. He was a wind magician, and Mo Fan could see a long wind tunnel behind him as he fled for his life. Fierce flames began to scuttle forth from beneath Mo Fan's feet again. Mo Fan's entire person looked like a fiery demon. Although an incredibly hot fire engulfed his whole body, he still seemed calm. Hui Wu ran with his life at stake. No one knew that while he was a wind student at Pearl Institute, he had always been a loyal follower of the Black Vatican. Although he could not receive resources, he had always hoped to gain more power. The Black Vatican was able to give him even more power. Although he had run pretty far, Hui Wu still had some lingering fear. He already knew of the great strength Mo Fan possessed during the Rook competition, but who knew that was only the tip of the iceberg. He didn't understand how a person who already had a summoning and lightning element could also have shadow abilities. This information had to be quickly given to the Great Deacon. Suddenly, he heard a voice rising ominously behind him. Fiery flames, exploding heavens. Hui Wu turned around. Eye-piercing red flames. He could only see the furious red flames coming toward him. The flames were extremely large, in the form of a gigantic fist raging out from the shabby factory. Even though he was so far away, the power of the fist of flames did not diminish at all. Hui Wu wanted to use his wind trail to change direction. The heat wave caused his skin to nearly melt while the gigantic fist expanded in size. Even if he wanted to hide from it, there was no way he could. When the powerful flames exploded, Hui Wu's entire being was engulfed. At close range, the fiery fist was able to turn a creature into black powder. The temperature of the flames decreased slightly over distance. However, it was still very much capable of turning a primary magician into a black carcass. Hui Wu thought that if he could run far away, he might avoid it. However, he never imagined that the demon from the campus actually possessed the power of fire. Hui Wu fell to the ground with flames raging around his body, his face charred beyond recognition and stamped with an expression of disbelief. What he would never understand was how this intermediate magician could actually possess magic from 4 different elements. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.